What is up, guys? Quincy Carrier here, back at it again with another pre-week one Q&A. Oh man, I'm so excited for the game coming up tomorrow, actually, if you're watching this video when I upload it. So let's not waste any time. I know you guys have a ton of questions, so let's just jump into it. And the first question of the day is going to come from Twitter. If you want to ask me questions on Twitter, follow me at Quincy. A lot of fun stuff happens there. Check it out. But the first question comes from Red Rock Roller. And they say, with Jarvis and Odell not playing a snap in the preseason, does this pose a problem for the Titans defense? Now, there is an argument to be made that since Odell and Jarvis have not played in the preseason, that there is no tape, and that it's going to be harder for the Titans defense to game plan for those two because of that. But I would actually flip it. Well, if you watch Thursday night's game, you saw how sloppy both offenses looked because they both didn't play in the preseason. And I think that has more of a chance to happen than Jarvis and Odell not playing does have to affect the Titans defense. Simply because Jarvis and Odell are two guys who offensive have been game planning around for years now up until this point. So they have a complete book on them. Now, how the Browns are going to use them, that's a different story. But preparing for OBJ and Jarvis doesn't really change because there's years of tapes on those two. And there's even tape of them in college playing together. So I really don't think that's going to come into play. I think the rust factor and them not playing at all really in the preseason could have an effect on how smooth this offense looks week one. The next question is from Peter B. Parker, who says, give Spider-Man back to Marvel. Also, do you think coming off a 4-game suspension will hinder Callaway's production? I don't know with Callaway. Callaway is just such a interesting case right now. I don't know where his mind is and how committed he is to the team. I don't know if Callaway's in the right mindset to really contribute to the team like we would want him to. So I really don't know what's going on with him. Even in camp, he really didn't look like he was motivated. Now coming off a 4-game suspension, now with the Browns picking up guys to essentially replace him, I can see him being buried even more down the depth chart. And I would say, just like with Kareem Hunt earlier this year, I said it, with Antonio Callaway, I would temper your expectations for what you think he's going to bring to this offense, because I don't think he's going to be a big part to this offense at all. Just like I don't think Kareem Hunt is ultimately going to be a huge part of this offense. Now, I could be wrong because I'm just a dude, but right now, that's the read I get on things. The next question is from the Vault Dweller. It is also the most liked question on the YouTube community post. So it's going to be the first one I'm going to talk about. How do you think the Browns will do in their 4 primetime slots that they have? Also, another underrated thing when you talk about this team having 4 primetime games. They have a ton of 4:15 games too. So the schedule they're going to be playing on from a time management standpoint is going to be just a little bit off for the team, a team that played almost exclusively at 1 o'clock on Sundays last year. But how do I think they will do? Let's see who they play. They play the Rams. I think they can sneak one off on the Rams early in the season. The Jets, I think they'll beat the Jets on Monday Night Football. Thursday night at home against the Steelers, I think it's going to be a W. And they play the 49ers on national TV as well on Monday night at Levi Stadium. Not because I think the 49ers are good, but just because of the circumstances of that. I think that's a game that the Browns could possibly drop. But they have a pretty favorable national TV schedule, so they could win all 4 of those. It's not really out the realm of possibility, especially since Pittsburgh's a home Thursday night game, and we know what the record is historically for teams in that situation. So, yeah, I think the Browns could fare well. The next question is from Jeff Ord, who says, how much with a loss week 1 will hurt the rest of the Browns season? A loss week 1 really doesn't hurt the Browns season. You assume they're going to lose a game here or there. I don't think they're going to go undefeated. But, and it's also not a division game. Now, it's an AFC game, which may come into play with the wild card and certain tiebreakers there. But losing against Tennessee week 1 really isn't the biggest deal in the world. I think this team being maybe 500 to below 500 to start the season going into their bye still isn't that big of a deal because at the end of the day, they play one divisional game in that time period. Division is going to be the most important. If they struggle early on and lose one game to Baltimore in division, they still got the rest of their divisional slate to play. They play Pittsburgh twice. They play Cincinnati twice within the last few weeks of the season. And then they also get to play Baltimore again at home. So if this team has their stuff together more in the second half of the season, that's going to be where you want to win the bulk of your games because winning the bulk of your games early really does nothing for this team when it comes to the divisional race. So if you want to shake the rust off, which the Browns are probably going to have to do, then I think how their schedule is laid out perfectly for that. So if they lose week 1, I wouldn't panic if they're 500 at the bye. I wouldn't panic if they're below 500 at the bye. I still wouldn't panic because they have all of those division games after the bye week. The next question is from Shake and Bake, who says, how do you think our kicking will be week 1? Keep up the great work. I don't know, man. I can't even freaking read. But thank you, man. Thank you, Shake and Bake. Shake and Baker. But how do I think our kicking will be? I don't know. They say Austin Seibert fixed whatever he was messing up early in camp. You never know until the bullets start flying, metaphorically. So we'll see how Austin Seibert does this weekend against the Titans, and then we'll either panic or we'll be skeptical in week 2. The next question is from Jamar Dunson, who says, what do you think of OBJ's hip injury, and how do you think he'll do against the Titans Sunday? The hip injury kind of concerns me because it seems like a nagging injury that won't go away. And it seems like an injury that's going to make OBJ uncomfortable. So it does make me a little bit concerned. I'm not going to lie there. How do I think it's going to affect him Sunday? It might affect his ability to go long. I really don't know. I would have to have eyes on OBJ. Everybody that has had eyes on OBJ has reported that he's looked fine. So it might just be a mental thing with OBJ at this point. But yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about that from a standpoint of it turning into a bigger injury. But, maybe it's just some uncomfortableness that he'll get over eventually during the season. The next question is from Ian Whittaker, who says, with AB going to new levels of insane recently, it made me think of his time in Pittsburgh. How do you think they covered up most of his actions and kept him in check? I don't think they really ever kept him in check in Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh is the team that drafted him in the 6th round. Pittsburgh is the team that developed him. Pittsburgh is the team that paid him twice. And Pittsburgh is an organization that is respected for how well they are ran and how buttoned up they are and how they are able to keep things inside. I don't think AB is really doing anything that new in Oakland that he didn't do in Pittsburgh. I think the difference now is that it's leaking out. I mean, when you have John Gruden as a head coach, a guy who has a lot of friends in the media, there's going to be a lot of leaks. When you have a general manager, Mike Mayock, who was a media member, you're going to have a lot of leaks just due to the nature of what those guys did in their past jobs. Look at a guy like Hugh Jackson, who had many friends in the media, and look at the level of leaks that was happening in his regime, and you would understand that that's where that comes from. Now, with the Steelers, none of those guys really owe the media any favors, so they're not going to be leaking stuff in that organization. I guarantee you that a young proving himself AB or a young just proved himself AB was doing ridiculous stuff. Now with Oakland, he's a bit more emboldened to do whatever it is he wishes he can do. It's almost like the parents aren't home for Antonio Brown. So sure, I think part of it is him acting worse. I also think a lot of it is just his actions getting out. And I just think that there's a part of AB that really doesn't want to do football anymore unless it's on his own terms. And I think that's also playing into it. Hope he's okay from a mental health standpoint, because some of this stuff It really doesn't make any sense. And part of me really wants to wait to make any judgments on this dude until I hear what he thinks is his side of the story to this situation. But yeah, it just shows you how good a good organization can keep things under wraps, because I don't think AB was that different in Pittsburgh, to be honest with you. Next question is from Giants Nation, regular paragraph leaver on this show, who says, "What's up, Quincy? Watching the first NFL game while I'm typing this. Cool. But anyways, how do you feel, or what do you think when you hear media or social media people talk about that football is dying, or that the NFL is dying? Me, I think people are just stupid, got bullied by football players in high school. But what's your opinion?" I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that. I think it is a legitimate question. I don't know if the sport in popularity, as far as people watching it, is dying, but I do think there is something to the sport as it comes to participation has a chance to die. A lot of people are willing to watch football and cheer football and have their favorite teams and watch the NFL. More and more people are less willing to let their kids play football because of the CTE, because of the head trauma. I don't think what's going to happen to football is going to be as severe as what happened to boxing, but there was a amount of people who decided that they don't want their kids boxing anymore. Just like there are a certain amount of people now that don't want their kids playing football. Former football players, NFL football players, who don't want their kids to play football anymore because of the health side effects that it has. So I think when people are talking about the NFL is dying, I think they're talking about it in that way. Now, if it's people talking about NFL's dying because it's not violent enough anymore, or because of certain things that got taken out of the game to make it more safe, I don't really agree with that. I think football is football, and eventually we're all going to get used to a safer version of football. And this isn't really related, but I think the one issue when it comes to how they've changed football to become safer is that I think they do it in the wrong order. Now, I understand why they do it, because it's easier for the NFL to institute a rule and have it trickle down rather than them start from the youngest up. But I think that's how it has to happen in order for people to get used to playing football in a much safer way as time goes on. If they would implement these rule changes from high school football on up to college football, then to the professional game, I think it'd be a safer way to implement rules that way. But back to your original question, is football dying? No, not as far as popularity goes, but there is something to keep your eye on when it comes to participation in football. I think a lot more people are not really as excited to allow their kid to play football at younger ages nowadays. The next question is from the Catster, who says, "What's your opinion on the Browns going with 2 rookies on special teams, and most notably cutting Brenton Colquitt?" And this caught me by surprise. I was pretty sure that all camp that he was going to be the guy for the Browns. So yeah, I was surprised that he is no longer the punter. I can see why they went with Jamie Gillian, because it looks like he's going to be a great punter for a long time. And it looks like he's a physical guy that kind of matches what Freddie Kitchens wants to do. And it is an interesting element that I have thought of having more of an athlete and having more of a physical guy back there punting football, so you can have an extra guy on coverage. So that is a very interesting element that he does bring to the game. But as far as the 2 rookies on special teams, I mean, the rookie on punter doesn't really bother me. The rookie at kicker doesn't really bother me because Greg Joseph wasn't that much more experienced. I think 1 more year. He was an undrafted guy last year. So if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I don't really think it relates to the amount of experience either guy has, because none of the options at kicker had a lot of experience. The next question comes from Drew Walker, who says, "How do you expect Denzel Ward will do in year 2?" I hope he stays healthy. If he stays healthy, we know how he'll do. He'll be great. He was elite last year in his rookie year. It would stand to reason that he would be even better this year if he can stay healthy. The question is if he can stay healthy. He has an issue with how he tackles. He has an issue with being smart to where he puts his head. And he is just kind of a reckless head first kind of guy, and you hope that he could play in a safer way. If he stays healthy, he's going to be great. If If he doesn't stay healthy, then he's just not going to be available, and that's going to be his legacy. So with D Ward, I think that's the case. He's already a very, very good corner. So I think that's not really the question mark. That is it for this week's questions. Let me know what you think and what your prediction is for this Sunday's game against the Titans in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload. And if you want to help this show out in a monetary way, you can join the Patreon or you can buy a shirt. Either is greatly appreciated and will go towards helping this show become even better and even more professional looking every day. But thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.